The skull had been cleaned and lined with gold. The skull of the man who had conquered Babylon, Lydia, and Media, whose armies had marched from the Aegean coast to the edge of the known world. The skull of Cyrus the Great, turned into a cup, filled with blood, raised by the hands of a woman whose name most history books omit in favor of his. The chronicles call her Tomyris, queen of the Misunderstanding, and the story of how she came to hold that skull, that is the story history forgot to tell. 3 months before the Chalice. On the western edge of the steppe, where the Oxus River cut its brown path through burnt gold grass, and Cyrus the Great looked at the horizon and saw the one thing he had never yet taken. The Misunderstanding were not an empire Cyrus would recognize. No stone cities, no treasury. What they had was better, and he couldn't see it. Ground that went on forever, horses bred for endurance over vanity, and a queen who understood something about power that Cyrus, for all his genius, had never needed to learn. He had always won. He had never needed to understand what it cost to survive being defeated. Cyrus sent a herald first. This is what conquerors do when they wish to appear civilized. The herald arrived at Tomyris's camp on a gray morning, his Persian robes absurd against the steppe wind, a gold disc of office at his chest, a clay tablet carried at arm's length, like something that might bite him.
Read it to me.
The message, preserved by Herodotus roughly 450 years after the fact, was an offer of marriage. Cyrus, Shahanshah, proposed to Queen Tomyris that she join her territory to his. The steppe and the empire, one thing under one crown. He framed it as protection, as generosity.
A gesture of protection and generosity.
He framed it as love, which was the part that told Tomyris everything she needed to know.
A man who wants a kingdom offers treaties. A man who offers marriage wants to own what he cannot take by other means.
She was not wrong. The marriage bed was another kind of annexation, and Tomyris, who had repelled 3 Scythian invasions in the previous decade, was not confused about what was being offered. Her answer has survived. She told the herald, if Cyrus wished to know her people, come and meet them honestly, cross the Oxus with his army, and she would withdraw 3 days' ride east. Then they would fight. Her terrain, her wind at her back. Or he could go home.
Tell Cyrus he may meet me.
Most historians call this Tomyris's defiance. The crown historian sees something else. She was not defying him. She was drawing him in. She already knew the defile between the 2 ridges 3 hours east, where Persian cavalry would slow, where steppe archers would have the high ground. She was extending mercy, the only kind she trusted, the mercy of an honest contest. Cyrus crossed the Oxus. His army was vast. His generals were veterans of Babylon, Lydia, Media. He had never lost a war. He looked at the Misunderstanding steppe and saw exactly what every empire sees when it looks at free people. A wild place to be ordered. A problem to be solved. His general Harpagus, who had served Persia long enough to recognize the specific smell of a catastrophic plan, advised caution. His exact words are not preserved. His alarm is recorded. Cyrus dismissed it because Cyrus had been right every time before, and being right every time before is one of the most dangerous things that can happen to a king. The Persian advance force moved east and left behind them, abandoned as if in hasty retreat, a camp full of tents, cooking fires still warm, roasted lamb, jars of wine. The Misunderstanding knew horses. They knew the steppe in every season. but they did not know wine. Spargapises found the camp at midday. 23, cavalry commander, his mother's heir. He looked at Persian abundance and saw, reasonably, the spoils of a retreating enemy. He ordered his riders to eat, tried the wine himself, nothing like fermented mare's milk, something warm that spread through the chest and made the afternoon look different. He let his men drink. Spargapises was not foolish. He was generous. He believed the best of the situation because the best of the situation seemed plausible. He had no framework for understanding that an enemy would leave abundance behind as a weapon. The Persian flanking force came from the North Ridge. The Massagetæ riders, heavy with food and wine and a warmth they hadn't expected, were slow. Spargapises was taken alive. Tomyris was in her throne yurt when Ariasbi came through the entrance. She had never seen him look the way he looked that evening. He did not speak. He set an iron shackle on the ground in front of her throne. Persian iron, still bright in one place where it was new. Cyrus's answer to her ultimatum, her son's chains.
Leave me.
Ariasbi left. The shackle gleamed in lamplight. The wind moved through the tent walls. Outside, horses moved in the dark. Tomyris picked up the shackle and held it for a long time. The demand she sent to Cyrus was recorded by the same Greek sources who recorded everything about this campaign, with varying degrees of accuracy, as Greek historians were largely working from Persian accounts, which were themselves written by people who preferred a different ending. The substance: release Spargapises unharmed within 2 days. Withdraw across the Oxus. Do this, and she would consider the matter settled. She described what she would do if he refused in language that historians for 25 centuries have alternately admired and winced at. She told Cyrus she would give him his fill of blood. In the Persian command pavilion, Harpagus heard this read aloud. He had been standing in the corner where senior generals stood. Men who had learned their job in the campaign's later stages was primarily to be present while the king made decisions and then execute those decisions without visible reservation. Harpagus had developed over 30 years of service, a very particular expression his officers called the accounting face. He was wearing it now.
And that is the report, my lord.
Cyrus looked at him for a moment.
Sire, I have served every king.
Cyrus sent his reply. No.
Of Persia, worst decision witnessed.
Here is what Cyrus believed, and it is worth believing it with him for a moment. He had Spargapises, the queen's son, her heir, the cavalry commander her people needed. In every previous campaign, having the hostage meant having the position. He had negotiated more peace than war. He genuinely believed a mother would choose her son over her principles. He was not a cruel man. He was a man who had been right so many times that his own certainty had become invisible to him. He brought Spargapises into the pavilion, offered food, water, rank, a place in the Persian court. A man of his quality would be given respect. His mother was a remarkable woman, deserving of a remarkable ally. This did not have to end in blood. Spargapises listened to all of it. He did not speak. Cyrus, in a gesture the chronicles describe as magnanimous, ordered the chains removed. A gesture of good faith. He was not holding the prince as prisoner, he was offering a choice. The chains came off. Spargapises looked at his own wrists. He looked at the silk walls, the gold tripods, the cedar smell that had nothing to do with the steppe. Then he took his own life. He chose the steppe. Even there, in a Persian pavilion 3 hours' ride from the Oxus, he chose it. He chose the thing he was over the thing Cyrus was offering him. 23 years old, the chronicles note, with the brevity history reserves for the most unbearable things, that he was gone before the chains had even been set aside. Harpagus was informed in his tent that evening. His scribe recorded the response.
Well, that's the end of the strategy then. And possibly the Empire.
The reports are confirmed, my lord.
He picked up his wine, set it back down, went to bed. He was, the sources agree, the only Persian general who slept that night.
That's the end of the strategy.
Tomyris received word at the 3rd hour past midnight. The accounts vary. One says she wept, one says she did not. The Crown historian's view is that whatever she felt in those first minutes was real and enormous and private, and it doesn't matter what it looked like. What matters is what it produced. She went to the burial mound. It was already prepared. The misunderstanding made the grave before the funeral. The place came first, the body would follow. A low hill, stone-ringed, horse skulls on stripped poles at the 4 directions. She went alone. Ariasbi watched her go from the camp boundary. He did not follow. What she said at the mound, no one heard. She had offered mercy. Twice. The marriage refusal was mercy. She told Cyrus she wanted honest war, not treachery. The ultimatum was mercy. She told him exactly what would happen if he refused and gave him 2 days to prevent it. He refused both. She walked back to the camp, into the throne yurt. There was a wineskin on the table, ordinary gear, leather and worn, and she stood looking at it. She picked it up. Ariasbi was in the entrance, standing with the stillness of a man who knows something has been decided and is waiting to be told what it is. She set the wineskin down, picked up her war bow from the rack, checked the string with her thumb, walked out of the yurt toward the Persian lines. Ariasbi watched her go. Then he gathered the war captains. He did not explain. They took one look at the direction she was walking and understood. The negotiation was over. The misunderstanding rode before dawn, toward the defile between the 2 ridges, 3 hours east of the Oxus, exactly where Persian cavalry would slow, exactly where steppe archers would have the high ground on both sides. Cyrus rode toward it, and the steppe swallowed the sound of 10,000 hooves. The battle was a Massagetae annihilation. Herodotus calls it the fiercest battle ever fought between barbarian peoples. The Massagetae were not barbarians. They were the people whose queen would shortly demonstrate more political clarity than most of the Greek city-states combined. The Persian force was destroyed. Not routed, destroyed. Cyrus fell in the defile, exactly where Tomyris had offered to meet him, on terrain she had chosen 3 months before he crossed the Oxus. Tomyris ordered her captains to find him among the dead. This took 3 hours. Her captains moved through the field with the efficient focus of people who understand this particular search matters differently. They found him. Even dead, there was something about Cyrus the sources struggle to name. One Persian officer who survived called it the kingness of him. He was not wearing a crown. He had taken it off before battle, the gesture that says, "I earn this." He looked, the survivors agreed, surprised. He had never been wrong before. Tomyris stood over him for a long time. No one approached. The wind moved through the defile, carrying smoke and iron and the specific stillness the steppe holds after a battle, as though the grass itself is waiting. She took the wineskin from her captain's hand, walked to the edge of the field where blood had pooled between 2 stones, filled it, returned to the body of Cyrus. Herodotus gives her the words, and we have no better source. I warned you. I offered you mercy, and you refused it. I told you what I would do. I am a woman of my word. She raised the wineskin.
I warned you.
I give you your fill of blood. She lowered it, stood in the defile with the wind and the smoke and the weight of what she had done. She looked like neither a victor nor a monster. She looked like a woman who had kept a promise to the dead. An unnamed Persian logistics officer witnessed this, the kind who survives battles by not being where the fighting is. He did not move for 3 full minutes. Then he went to his captain.
I told you what I would do.
His captain, who had also witnessed it, considered this for a moment.
We're all going to need that.
Of my word.
The officer wrote a letter home that night. His description survived in fragments in a Persian administrative archive. Historians have argued ever since whether it is eyewitness testimony or embellishment. The Crown historian's position, it doesn't matter. She was the kind of person the story had to be true about. If you want to follow this channel through the rest of history's most extraordinary figures, the queens, the kings, the decisions that broke empires and built new ones, subscribe now. The chronicles have more. We are not finished. Now the harder question. Was she right? Cyrus offered mercy. Real mercy as he understood it. He was the most humane conqueror of his era. When he took Babylon, he freed the enslaved. When he took Lydia, he preserved the temples. His mercy was genuine.
I need to be stationed somewhere else.
His mercy was also conquest. You could accept his protection, as many peoples did and many thrived. Or you could refuse it, and he would come anyway, using generosity as a weapon when force seemed costly. He used Spargapises as a bargaining piece. He used the wine feast as a trap. He called these things mercy. Tomyris gave him honest war and kept her word. Both of them were right. Both paid for it. The tragedy is that the question of when justice must override mercy has never been answered cleanly, and this story, told for 25 centuries, is one of the reasons why. Every empire that came after believed it wouldn't happen to them. Darius pushed east. Alexander pushed further. Rome looked at the steppe and saw a problem. Each found their own Oxus River. Each produced their own harpagus, the voice in the corner wearing the accounting face saying, "This is the worst decision I have personally witnessed." And each of them would be largely, brilliantly, impressively ignored. At dawn, the day after the battle, Tomyris sat outside her throne yurt facing east. Gold grass, cold wind, the sky the color of iron before it's worked into something useful. She was not celebrating. She was sitting in the particular stillness of someone who has done what they promised and is reckoning with the weight of it. The horse skulls on the burial mound poles turned in the wind. The steppe wind moved through the grass. The horse skulls turned on their poles. The massage tea went on. History does not record what Tomyris did with the chalice at the end. It records only that she made it and spoke those words, and that Cyrus, the greatest conqueror the ancient world had produced, became the vessel that proved them true.
Remember this.
The skull was lined with gold.
Empires forget.
Whether you find that fitting depends on what you believe justice is made of. And whether you find it merciful depends on what you believe mercy costs.